Avast, me mateys, and welcome back to another Small Screen Star Wars. As always, I'm Julian and Rachel. I'm joined by Rachel Wilkinson. Yar, indeed. This is a rare morning episode of the podcast, so I bring my morning attitude, which is lower than usual, and my morning voice, which is also lower than usual. So you're welcome. We could, I guess it's brunch. I mean, yeah, brunch starts at like 11, goes till 2, right? Yeah. Right. And it's not lunch because lunch starts at noon and everyone knows that. You can't just have lunch at 11. That's brunch. But you can still have brunch at 1. So that's too early for brunch. That's just breakfast. The rules for brunch are, yeah, I mean, have you ever done high tea? Yeah, it's more about the experience than like how much tea you're provided. You know? Yeah, but you get to put on a fancy hat and get dressed up and go pretend like you're the queen. Yeah, yes, I think so. I've done it. Actually, no, I haven't done it. I knew people who did it regularly when I was living in Cayman, who they would do high tea at the Ritz, and so they would be like, "Ooh, we're going to the Ritz to do high tea. Ooh, crumpets." Well, okay, but this is true of any time you go out to eat or whatever. It's like, oh, I could go to the bar, or I could just buy a 6-pack. It's like, well, sure, it's very different. Yeah, I'd just rather do brunch. There's nothing grosser to me than egg salad. For the record, I think it's. I think I've made the. I think I've made this point before, but I think it's bullshit that you can just call something that has mayo in it a salad. That's not a salad. That's not a fucking. Well, they can put their casserole dishes away because I don't want to hear it. All right. Cold pasta and calling it a salad. It's not a salad. Salad has greenery. I potato salad, pasta salad, egg salad being the worst easily. Oh my god. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, but sorry, let me rephrase. I hate pasta salad. But other people love it. So that is all that is. Okay. Hey, you know what? Everyone who out there who's like me appreciates that. They're like, God, thank God she doesn't bring that around anymore. Bring just literally anything else. Okay. Anyway, welcome to Brunchcast. We're gonna be talking about our favorite salads this morning. No, we're gonna be talking about Skeleton Crew Season 1, Episode 3, titled "Very Interesting as an astrogration problem, which you're probably all wondering, what does that mean? And I don't want to, skip too far ahead, but I feel like it's important to address this right off the top. Astrogration, as defined as, quote, the science or art of navigating a spaceship, space navigation. That's from Webster's Dictionary online. So, but I feel like Webster's Dictionary online has a bunch of words that aren't words. So, I don't, I don't know. Astrogation is probably a real word, but if the definition is the art of navigating a spaceship, it does feel like, like, I guess we have spaceships in real life. I forget that. I guess technically, I mean, is like, not really, I guess. Not anymore. We don't have the space shuttle. Was the space shuttle a spaceship? Navigation and astro meaning space, and navigation meaning to navigate, right? It's a cool word. It's a cool word. Okay, the logline for this episode is, quote, a mysterious stranger offers to help our heroes. Just, again, sticking with the extremely vague and not descriptive at all. But that's okay. This is directed by David Lowery. We talked about him last week. Written by Christopher Ford and John Watts. Before we get into because again, if you've never done this with us before, if you've never been here before, we're going to be, and thank you for sticking through the brunch part of the episode. We're going to be talking about and in-depth recapping the entire episode of this season of Skeleton Crew. We're doing episode 3. We just did episode 1 and 2, the premiere. And we give our overall thoughts. We definitely go full spoilers for everything. Really everything Star Wars that we can remember. And yeah, that's the plan. But a little bit of news and some just some quick topics from last week to just clarify that we're up in the air. So before we get into that, just a quick reminder that we've moved from Twitter /X to Blue Sky. So if you want to interact with us in a microblogging fashion, the best way to do it is to go to Blue Sky, search for @Tower Babble Podcast, right? Or towerbabble.ca. Is that what I'm really struggling with the handles in the Blue Sky thing. It's not. Yeah, let's make sure. You'll find us. It's towerbabble.ca. Yeah, correct. Yeah. Find us there. In fact, I put a handy note for those who we do record these live. I'm not expecting the normal audience that we would get for a live podcast on a Thursday 11:30 start. But we do, not me. We actually, yeah. If anyone has any jobs that they want to offer me, I am all ears. Or if everyone listening, every single one of you, all decided you were going to subscribe to the Patreon, we could maybe make a go at it of that. That's no pressure though. There's no pressure, for real. It's cool. Patreon.com. Yeah, exactly. And then pressure them to join the Patreon. Yeah. As long as we're like second party to the pressuring, I don't feel bad about it. Patreon.com/TowerBabblecast. We do bonus monthly film club episodes. We're on a now delayed, like a running delay, essentially. I'm trying to organize when to record with Jeremy. Hey, Chris, in the chat. I'm not unclear if they're saying happy birthday to themselves or if they're telling us happy birthday. Or if it's just spam. It's not clear to me. But there is somebody on the YouTube chat. Again, Twitch and YouTube, you can find us on there for live. Subscribe and you'll get notifications. Speaking of notifications, we did drop a note about how this episode would be delayed. So if you want to stay up to date with how and when things are happening, Blue Sky is the best way to do that, probably. Also, of course, the Patreon, because you get access to our Discord, which is always fun. A community of like-minded folks who like to talk about nerdy stuff. including Star Wars, like we'll be doing today. So again, patreon.com/TabRabblecast. The film club for this week, or this month, sorry, is Frequency, a Dennis Quaid movie from the year 2000, and I watched it 2 nights ago, and it is awesome. And if you're a fan of firefighters, you're gonna love this movie. It's yeah. I will say, and just a little hint at the what we'll be talking about in the review, but Dennis Quaid's like put on New York accent is hilarious. It's so funny. Everyone's putting on this thick New York accent, in this movie, and it's great. It's very funny. Anyway, we'll be talking about that in more depth with Jeremy in the coming days, I hope. Maybe even tonight if things go according to plan. Okay, let's get into a quick couple bits of news. So, I guess there's only one thing of news, and I'm treating it as a rumor, even though it has been now posted by Variety, and I'll trust Variety as a source most of the time. Variety reporting that Jeremy Allen White, who you might know from The Bear or Shameless, which is a show that I tried to get into, but I can't get into it. It's just too much of the same thing over and over and over again. These poor people, and they're just shitty people, and they're just being shitty to each other all the time. And it's like, okay, I get it. You kind of get it really early on, and it feels like it doesn't really change ever. Oh, that's nice. For me, that's Justified. I'm almost done Justified. And we got Ray in the chat. Hey there, Ray. Welcome. Thanks for joining. So yeah, Jeremy Allen White cast as Jabba's son, Rhoda the Hutt, in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. So I saw voicing. No, he's voicing it. I mean, I don't think we're doing costumes for the Hutts anymore. I mean, I don't know if they were ever costumes or if they were just animatics or whatever, animatronics. Sorry, but anyway. Here's a quick download from Wikipedia on Rhoda the Hutt. Rhoda the Hutt, by the way, who appeared prominently in an episode of the Clone Wars, where I think what they go off as a like fresh baby. Yeah. Kind of. Yeah, they have to go on like a rescue mission, which is funny for this whole, but because he's a Hutt, obviously. I had to explain how the Hutts work, because this came up in because Jeremy Allen White has that as a talent. People really like the Bear. I'm one of them. The Bear's amazing. I think that's really elevated his status in Hollywood, and so he's the hotness right now. And so this news comes across, and people are like, read this article, like this headline, and yeah, as Ray says here, it felt like an Onion article when I saw the headline. Totally. Right? It's like, it seems like, and it's like a bunch of words that don't make sense, and then you're like, okay, what does this even mean? So I am interested to see what Jeremy Allen White does. Like, is he going to put a voice on, or is it just going to be his voice coming out of a big slug? Because oh my God, nothing could be worse than Zero the Hutt. Easily the worst character ever created for Star. Maybe like worse than Jar Jar for sure. It's not even close. Yeah. Oh, that would be sick. Wouldn't that be sick? He just he's like, I'm committed to the role, and I am. I'm gonna be doing the whole thing in Huttese, and it will be subtitled. In fact, the whole movie. Yeah. I mean, the thing with like the Jabba thing is, it's not just the look; it is the voice, right? His deep voice. I know that laugh, type of situation. So I have to imagine they'll be doing some tweaks to it, right? It's like, how Mark Hamill voices like a million things in Star Wars now, but you can never really recognize his voice because they're doing all sorts of, like, he's like the bartender, or he's this weird alien. He was like Clyde or whatever, that weird alien slug thing, actual slug from episode 9, where you actually can recognize his voice in that one. I think it's Clyde. I think that's his name. The one that has like no eyes or whatever. Yeah, you remember this? Or no mouth? Okay, so at the very beginning of episode 9, when they're doing that like rescue mission on the Millennium Falcon, they like pull up to this thing, they dock the Millennium Falcon, and then there's this like an actual giant like snail slug thing, and yeah, and he talks, and that's Mark Hamill. Anyway, I was explaining how the Hutts are like they are the equivalent of like an Italian mobster family organization. So there's all sorts of, because people are like, what does this mean? Is like, is he going to be like an adopted son of Jabba? Like he's just going to be a human character, you know? But no, and it's like I'm like no. Rhoda's an actual character already, and he's a slug character. So Rhoda, nicknamed Podunky Muffkin, translated Punky Muffin, by his father, and also nicknamed Stinky by Ahsoka Tano, was a male Hutt and the son of Jabba the Hutt during the Clone Wars. He was secretly kidnapped by the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Why would they kidnap Rhoda the Hutt? I don't remember they did weird stuff like this, which was orchestrated by Count Dooku with the help of Zero. God damn it, Zero, the worst. Rhoda's great uncle. The plot was meant to discredit the Jedi Order and scuttle the negotiations between the Galactic Republic and the Hutts. It's crazy that the Hutts, they have their own planet and their own star system, basically. But it is wild that they're such a big criminal organization that they can have negotiations with the government. Yeah. I guess, yeah. He was kidnapped by Asajj Ventress and taken to the planet Teth. A Jedi rescue team consisting of Anakin Skywalker and the Padawan Ahsoka Tano traveled to Teth to rescue him. He then became sick and nearly died on his way to Tatooine, but survived thanks to Ahsoka Tano. After Anakin Skywalker and Tano evaded Dooku, who tried to kill Rhoda and blame the Jedi, Rhoda was returned to his father. Rhoda was later present when Baron Notluisky Papanoidea visited Jabba's palace in 20 BBY. Ventress returned to Tatooine and wished to avoid attention from Jabba as she had previously kidnapped his son. So, you'd think that Jabba would have a little bit more respect for the Skywalkers, considering the work they put in to rescue his son. But, crime boss is going to crime boss. We can't hear you, Rachel. Hold on, let me just make sure we are... Let's see here. We're missing line 3. Hold on. Please hold, everyone. I've got this. Oh, you should be good now. Can you say something?
Am I good here? Hello? Yeah. Check.
Great. Thanks, Ray. Appreciate the heads up.
Thank you.
That's my bad. I should have tested that before we started. It's a good thing it's mostly me talking for the first half of the episode.
True. Very true.
This is for everyone, of course, who's listening on the recorded podcast. They won't hear any difference. They'll just hear us fixing a problem that they didn't know was a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know what to make of the story, other than the fact that it is a little odd. And it seems odd because I thought this was basically done. Like this movie was like in the bag, done. Like
right.
Put a bow on it. But if we're still casting characters, then it implies that it's not done and that they're not as confident in this movie. I mean, maybe that's a stretch, but it's coming out next year. If they have lots of time to do voice, stuff, I guess, right? If they have the character in the movie, they've got some sort of temp voice in there. They'll now add in Jeremy Allen White's performance. I guess I can understand from his perspective why he'd want to do it, because it's Star Wars. Everyone wants to be in Star Wars, but it just feels like an out of left field choice.
Yeah, probably because we're not like super familiar with him being like a voice actor, right? And I know that now a lot more just kind of, I don't know whether you call them regular actors, are also becoming voice actors, which I think is sometimes upsets the voice acting community because they don't get as many jobs when the big stars take voice acting. But I don't know. I think it's probably just because it's Star Wars and he's pumped to be a Hutt. Like, it's probably just like a fun role for him.
Do you think, again, we have to assume he's doing just speaking English, right? Or, sorry, Galactic Basic.
I would assume, yeah. But I really do want to hear him speak some Huttese, too.
I mean,
maybe he's a huge Star Wars nerd.
The only Hutt that doesn't speak Huttese is Zero, and he's the most annoying one.
Yeah.
So, it is... I
would assume it'll be a mix.
You think you think it'll be some Huttese mixed with some English?
Yeah, probably.
I like the
'Cause
idea that Jabba put his son into like boarding school and like
no, no,
learned
no, no.
English.
That's not how it is. They know basic. All of them know basic, but
They
they
just don't
just don't
use it.
they don't use it because they think it's beneath them. They make everybody
Oh,
that's
speakatese.
the Hutt's whole thing. Yeah, they know
Mm.
it. They're like, "Nah, I'm not going to do it."
So Jabba knew basic this whole time, but he just refused to ever speak
Yeah.
it. All
Yeah, he
right,
knows
fair enough.
it. He just
Okay.
like it's just like a power move to like have to have people like he just speaks his own language. He's like, "No, fuck you. You can hear what I have to say through a translator."
The thing is, so obviously everyone has different voices. So you can imagine that Jabba has like a very deep voice, just
Yeah.
like in comparison to Hutts in general. But then we saw the Hutts, those like twins in
Yes.
Book of Boba Fett. They also had a pretty deep voice.
Yeah.
So that's like our feelings for what a Hutt sounds like sound like. Oh, like that's
Yeah.
what it sounds like to us. You know.
Yeah.
So when we hear Zero speaking, and of course he's speaking in that high pitched, super annoying voice.
Yeah, his is
Now
bad.
it's kind of like ruined my way of thinking about how Hutts speak basic. So we'll see. We shall see. I like me some Jeremy Allen White. Love the
Yeah.
bear. Ready for this movie. Concerned about it. I have some concerns. I hope it's good. They can't get movies off the ground, so
Yeah.
if this is a failure, I think it's going to be a pretty. It's going to have some repercussions. I just don't. I'm not looking forward to that. If that is the case, but
Mhm.
I think people will come out to see a Mandalorian movie. I
I
think.
think so too. Yeah.
Okay, so just a couple of things to clarify from last week. Didn't mention this on the show, but this is referenced and also not said on the show. The Skeleton Crew does not say this in the television show Skeleton Crew yet, but the ship's
Okay.
name is called the Onyx Cinder. That's the name of
Oh,
the
it's
pirate
kind of
ship
cool.
they're on. Yeah, it's basically a play on the Black Pearl.
Ah, okay.
But Onyx Cinder is a cool combination of words.
Yeah.
But again, they haven't said this on the actual show, but this is something that if you were reading any of the behind the scenes articles on StarWars.com, that's also how we found out that the rat's name in
Right.
Smee's eyeball is called Snowball.
Snowball. Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. That's just a little tidbit there. And we need to make a correction. We talked about the credits. You know how the
Yeah.
kids were like, "Hey, you guys got these crazy Old Republic credits.
Yeah.
How do you have these?" So we had assumed that was like Republic credits from the Clone Wars era or
Yeah.
prior to maybe. It seems to be that we were somewhat right in the sense that they are Republic credits, but it seems to be that they're actually credits from the Old Republic, like the old Republic.
Are they?
Yes, it seems to be
Oh,
the
okay.
case. That they predate the Republic of the 1,000 years that Chancellor Palpatine mentions in the prequels. There's that moment where he says, "This Republic has stood for 1,000 years," right?
Mhm.
Which kind of doesn't jive with what Obi-Wan says, right, about how the Jedi were the protectors of peace for the Old
Right.
Republic and for over 10,000 or 1,000 generations, which would be like 20,000 years. So these they're over 1,000 years old. It seems to be the case.
Okay,
It'd be
but
like finding someone using doubloons as like or Roman whatever Roman money is. I just saw Gladiator
yeah.
2, I should remember, but they'd be like someone coming in and trying to pay for something with a piece like a gold piece or something.
Okay.
I think that's the idea. But
Okay.
we have more time to learn. There's still more episodes, so
All right.
but I think
I was
that's
just
the
confused
sense.
because I did pause it and it does have the little gear on there. So like
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know.
Because confusingly, that's also the emblem of the Old Republic.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's part it's not just that kind of phoenix looking one
Yeah, so
because
it's
they
not the
have
New
that
Republic.
with the wings.
That's the New Republic.
No,
Has
no,
the
no, no. The
Phoenix.
old Republic logo also has it. It's kind of like that. It's got it almost looks like flames on the side, like wings, but it's
Oh, you're thinking.
skinnier in
Oh,
the middle.
you're thinking of the Jedi emblem.
Oh, it's the
Like
Jedi. Okay, that's the
that's
old
the Jedi
Republic
emblem that
Jedi.
has like the
Ah,
the lightsaber and then like
kind of. Yeah, little
the petals
star
up the side.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, never mind then. Ignore me.
Yeah. No. Anyway, so we have yet to confirm that, like, how exactly old are we talking here? But this episode implies that it's pretty old. I mean, they pull up that like paper scroll, so
Yeah.
you know, so we'll see. We talked about like when exactly is this set. I think we get some more confirmation of that this week with the New Republic Rangers. The Rangers of the New Republic appear in this episode.
Right.
But that pirate that we were like, I'm pretty sure that's Vane. Double checked, which wasn't in the credits last week, but that is Vane.
That
Credited
makes
as
sense.
Vane. So yeah,
He's got the same necklace and all that.
yeah,
Whatnot,
same guy.
so.
And yeah, that's it. So we can get into this week again, titled "Very Interesting as an Astrogration Problem." So
Mhm.
overall thoughts, Rachel, on this week's episode?
Yeah, it felt obviously it's so hard. Like the third episode, I find in all these shows, they
Mhm.
always feels like too short for me.
I agree. And actually, you know what? I had a note in my overall thoughts that says "felt too short," and then
Oh,
wrote
I
in
didn't see
brackets,
that. Yeah.
what are we really saying when we feel that way? And I'm like, I want to unpack that a little bit because it's like, it's one thing to say, you know, I've never watched it, but my understanding is that episodes of Bluey are like 12 minutes long, right?
Okay. Yeah. There's.
And
Yeah.
people love that show,
Yeah.
adults and children alike, and I respect
It
that.
is cute.
I'm sure it's great, but do people complain about episodes of Bluey being too short at 12 minutes long?
No, I think because that's like the standard. Like that's what you're used to. So I think it's just when you come off like a double episode premiere and you get so much. They feel big. They feel like there's lots of information.
It's
There's
got some more
lots
like
of
movie. It feels more like a movie.
yeah. And then I guess when we get these like a kind of a smaller one, like when it was done, I was like, oh, it's over already. Like I was just kind of like I was expecting just a little bit more to happen. I was expecting maybe like a few more scenes, I
Yeah, I
guess.
mean,
So
for this episode, it feels like it does feel a little bit like we're setting things up. You know, like
yeah.
last week, the first two episodes last week really established the characters, or the children characters at least. That's the
Yeah.
one thing that I felt like for this week. Though we spend the whole episode with what's his name, Jod.
Jod, yeah.
Yeah, uh,
Nawood.
Jod
He's got like
Nanawood.
he's
Yeah.
got like 3 different names now
Yeah, and,
so
or
far.
also Crimson Jack, which
Crimson
I feels like
Jack or
another example of like another connection to Pirates of the Caribbean. So
yeah,
that's weird
yeah.
to me. He's the captain of the Onyx Cinder, and he's Captain Jack. It feels like a little
Yeah.
bit on the nose.
Well, he's
But
not the captain of the Onyx Cinder yet.
no, he's right. He works for the kids. That's
He
the
works
deal.
for the kids, yeah.
That's the deal they struck. But we spent a whole episode with him, with Jude Law,
Mm.
and I just feel like we don't get a good sense of him.
I think that's probably the point of this episode a little bit. I do
Yeah, he's
think
obviously holding back.
Yeah, he's kind of supposed to be a little convoluted. We're not 100 like not sorry. Ugh. It's the morning. We're not 100% sure where he lies, who he is. He's not giving much to anybody at this point. So I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
that's
so
the point is to
it's not a
keep the
complaint.
wonder. Yeah.
It's not a complaint, but it's like if you're gonna if you're taking these episodes out of like a one at a time on their own, he would feel incomplete as a character. But
Yeah.
that's why you have a series. So we'll I would like to expect that the show will explore that more. I have to assume they will.
Yeah.
Star Wars, as of late on their TV stuff, has been getting better at doing more character work and less plot
True.
stuff. So the hope is, of course, that they continue that trend. And I think so, because they did good work establishing the kids. I think we have a
Yes,
very
yeah.
good idea of who the kids are. And Crimson Jack remains a mystery. Jod, whoever he is. Any other overall thoughts on the episode?
No, I think we can kind of get through it as we get through it,
Mm-hmm.
as we mosey along.
Sure, I'll add a couple things here.
Sure.
I like that the mystery was progressed, but again, it felt like, baby steps a little bit.
Yeah.
Here.
There were some pretty cool revelations about it. So it does, about their planet and everything was kind of like, there was definitely some interesting things that I'm like pumped to kind of talk about. But
Kim was cool as a character, the bird
yeah,
character.
I liked her. She's like a little owl.
Little derivative of Maz Kanata to me, like feels a little bit too much like the same character. But and even down to the voice, which sounds like very
Yeah, they do
similar.
sound similar.
Like they're doing the same thing.
She's the one from the movies, right? With the big eyes.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. Yeah. She had the
I get what
castle.
you're saying.
Yeah. Uh, I thought all the stuff with the ships when they're escaping the port and with all the
Yeah,
stuff with the X-wings looked really cool.
it
I
did.
think
It
this
looked really
episode
good.
looked very good in
It
general,
did.
but yeah, I think it's a pretty. I was just pretty meh on this episode
Yeah, I really love the
on the
music
whole.
actually.
Yeah. Yes. Michael Giacchino, Mick Giacchino, Michael Giacchino's son, Mick, is doing a really good work here. He pulls in some like retro sci-fi vibes
Yeah, that's
with
I
the
don't know what I don't know what instrument it is, but I feel like this is kind of gonna sound dumb, but it sounded very like when The Simpsons does Halloween episodes with the aliens.
Oh yeah.
Like
Hmm.
that kind of woo woo. I don't know I don't know what
It's
instrument
got
it is.
like a
But
it's a weird.
it's a
There's a
very
name
like
for it.
80s synth kind
I think
of
it's
like
it's earlier than that. It's like
is
the
it? Okay.
oh yeah, it's like from like the 60s.
Yeah, it's just it's so cool. It fits. It just fits very good in this, and it's something we don't normally get with Star Wars music, but that it's very like alien woo woo central
Well, yeah.
music. I
Again,
liked it.
this sounds like an old sci-fi serial, like you'd
Yeah,
hear as like a radio show or something.
yeah,
So
yes,
yeah.
exactly. It's very cool.
So yeah. Let's get into the recap. We start on at Atten, and we get an establishing shot of the city. Not a lot of people around. Lots of droids on patrol. Really, kind of like I think as we learn more about the planet, it feels less homey and more creepy. The
Yeah,
more time we
right?
spend there, yeah,
There's so many droids on this planet. Like they drive the buses, they teach the classes, they're
they
the
patrol the
security, they're the
streets.
police.
Yeah,
Yeah, like it's like okay, like creepy.
I'm
Very
getting
yes.
like I'm getting a like a Wizard of Oz vibe
Yeah.
situation.
And what's that show? Was it Stepford Wives or something where they're like robots or something? I don't know.
Stepford Wives. Yes, the men in that movie take their wives to Stepford and then turn them into robots. It's unclear.
Yeah.
No, they create robot copies of their wives.
Right, something like that. That's kind
Yeah,
of not the
it's
exact
super
feel.
weird.
Like I know the people aren't robots in the Star Wars show, but it just feels like there are humans, but there and everything looks very perfect, but there's also just yeah.
There's something sinister behind
Yeah.
the. Yeah, I it just again that like feels like there's a the Great Wizard situation.
Yeah.
Like they talk about the supervisor or whatever.
Yeah,
Seems
the
like
super and it's
somebody in
interesting.
charge. It's either a giant AI computer,
Yeah.
right? Or it's like some ancient alien
Yeah.
or some guy who's been like passed down through generations is the
Right?
like in charge of maintaining this thing. So I don't know. We'll
Mhm.
see. But
It's
there's
always
something going on.
yeah, it's interesting to me that it's like they can't talk to the person or whoever it is directly. They have to go through the droids, and the droids are like
Yeah,
trying to tell them no. I'm like, okay, like this is
that's right. It's
the
like
whole
the Great
chain of
Wizard
command is
with
quite
his
odd.
like in Oz, like talking through that big puppet thing,
Yeah,
instead of,
yeah,
and it's like, hey, wait a minute,
yeah.
you're just a
Just
dude.
in a closet.
Yeah. Okay. So Wim's dad is pretty distressed as he meets with the rest of the missing kids' parents. We meet again Farah, who is Fern's mom, and I think is there a same-sex couple here? I think
I think so. Yeah.
someone was. I saw someone complaining on IMDb
Oh my god.
about this. It was it somehow
Why
was the
does it
featured. It was the
bug
featured. It
you?
was the featured review. They had wrote an entire review of it and gave it a 1 out of 10.
Stuff.
They are like really like the episode, yada yada yada. And then they're like I deduct 7 points for this woke shit basically.
That's
Um,
like
yeah,
the most like shitty I'm sorry, lowbrow opinion you can have. Like, why does it matter? Like it just I didn't even notice until the second time I watched.
I
Like that's how like
don't
that
think they
much
even have a line of dialogue. I think
they
maybe
do a little
one.
bit. They're
They're
like,
just
oh,
like
like they're worried about
it's
their
our
daughter. It's
children.
just
They're not like
yeah.
main characters
It's
of the show.
it's insane. It's insane
Yeah,
for that to bug you. Okay, newsflash: gay people like Star Wars too. It's
yeah.
it's just like,
Also, gay
are
people have
you mad?
kids.
Yeah, exactly. Like, are
Yeah.
you mad that there's a single dad? No. Are you mad that there's a kind of a single mom? No. Then like, why are you mad about this other like different group? Do you
You know,
need all the parents
these
to
much
be in?
happier people. Yeah.
Yeah, you need them all to be in whatever nuclear family, mom and
Hey,
dad households. No, we don't. Like,
is
fuck
Fern
off.
a single? Like, is Fern's mom a
I
single
don't know.
mom?
We just haven't seen her dad
Yeah.
yet.
Okay. Maybe he's
But
just
that's
always
what I mean.
working.
It's just like, who cares?
Do you?
Fuck.
Oh, do you think Fern's mom and Wim's dad are gonna, when they get rescued, they'll be like, we should start it. We should like
Be in
become
love?
one big happy family. Yeah.
Ship them? Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
I'm shipping them
Well,
as to
can't do
become
that.
a
People are going
family
to be
unit.
mad about it.
Oh
Like,
yeah, you're right. That's a
yeah,
cross racial
too
relationship.
woke.
Yeah,
Fuck
that's way too
off.
woke. Okay, here's
Getting
the thing
so
though.
tired of this
It's
shit.
updated, and there's a new featured review for this episode
Okay.
by D. Lochner
Hmm.
on IMDb. It's just a short one. I'll read it right now. This is an old tradition that we do occasionally, which is to read one of the IMDb reviews because they are usually unhinged. It's so funny. Okay, this is
Hmm.
called Strong Chapter, Jude Law Shines. Episode 3 of Skeleton Crew solidifies itself as the series' strongest entry yet. Could not disagree more. Um, Visually stunning, the direction by David Lowery delivers breathtaking moments, particularly during a high-stakes escape sequence that rivals even the most intense Star Wars action. No, it does not. Okay, Jude Law continues to shine as Jodna Nawud continues to. This sounds like this is written by AI. It's seriously, it
I'm
does.
fine with that.
Balancing gravitas and warmth in a way that anchors the show amidst its youthful ensemble. While some of the child characters feel underdeveloped, okay.
I don't agree with that.
I mean, KB specifically
A little
got
bit,
more
yeah.
moments this week, right? It mentions here KB's standout moments offer a glimpse of their potential. The episode recaptures the wonder of early Star Wars, marrying nostalgia with fresh storytelling. Again, feels like written by AI. I'll give you a pass because I can't say for sure, but I
Yeah.
I don't know. I grapple a little bit with this like idea that Jude Law continues to shine. He barely appeared in episode 2. He's in there for like 2 seconds. So
Yeah.
you know, we shall see. I do.
I have a
I will say
question.
I do like his performance. Go ahead.
Yeah. Can you it's not it is well, it's not relevant. Can you comment on people's reviews
Uh,
on IMDb?
you can upvote or downvote them.
I'm gonna
And when
start
by the way,
bullying people.
that and it's like, is this helpful? Upvote or downvote? Like a thumbs up, thumbs down. The one that I
Yeah.
read before, the woke shit guy, it was like 1 thumbs up and like 85 downvotes. But
Okay, good.
was for some reason called the featured review. I don't know what criteria is to be
Mhm.
the featured
We
review.
still haven't figured that out, but
No, I mean they never. Because the feature review is a 1-star review. There's only 7 user reviews here. This is again pro tip from your friends here at Small Screen Star Wars / Tower Babble podcast. If you want to get exposure, go write reviews on IMDb for these episodes. There is just not that many of them, and
yeah.
I will read them. So
I'm creating an account right now so I can
and
start bullying people.
and then we just need to start
I'm done
dropping
with
in.
this.
Be like, we start dropping in our like references to our own podcast.
I'm
and
doing
shill
that. I'm going to
ourselves.
do
Yeah.
all
Be
of
like,
this.
as
I'm
mentioned
doing
on
it.
Small Screen Star Wars, this guy is full of shit.
Listen to us bully this
Yeah.
man for the next 10 minutes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
So,
over it.
you're like, I'm sick of these people and their crappy reviews. Someone's got to write something half decent.
I'm doing it.
Okay. We do see we do see a mural on the wall in Fern's mom's house.
Oh,
And
okay.
it has it's visually similar to the mural that we see from Rebels, like in the same artistic kind of styling, the way that characters are portrayed. It seems to hint at there being more to the planet. Like it features a lot of the same aliens that we've seen on the planet. There seems to be it almost looks like it's depicting like a Thanksgiving, like an old timey Thanksgiving stage, you know what I'm saying, where it's like, oh, here's Christopher Columbus meeting the locals. We're not going to depict how the murdering or the raping, but we're going to show this like very like wholesome image, and so it seems like there's hinting at some of the past for At-Atten, but we don't know exactly what it all means yet. Pretty crazy. So KB's parents, right? they're upset because they lost signal to her life monitor, which I guess is her like thing that's connected to her head. Still think it's crazy to put robotics inside your child's head, but
Well, yeah.
different world, different strokes. I get it.
Maybe she needs it for some reason.
Maybe she needs. Maybe she has like learning disability or something. That's fair.
Sorry.
A droid arrives with a message from the supervisor, ominously titled "The Supervisor," telling them that the kids are on a starship that, quote, illegally crossed the barrier. The supervisor believes it's too risky to contact the outside world and will not be. Nah, it's not worth it. Sorry about that. Farah being Fern's mom, will petition the supervisor for a meeting because she's a big boss. There's not room for everybody at the top. That's what she said.
Mm-hmm.
And Wim's dad is processing this news. He doesn't really say much. He's just kind of like taking it all in, pretty shocked. But while he's kind of like thinking about all this and all the stuff that he did wrong, we hear more of what the droid is saying, which is here's a couple quotes. Contact outside the barrier is forbidden. Travel outside the barrier is forbidden. Any violation of planet-wide protocols will result in security action. So this is one of those like, there's just no compassion here scenarios, right? Sorry, we wish we could help, but they broke the rules, so it's like there's no consideration for the fact that they're children, or the fact that it wasn't them who stole a spaceship,
well, exactly, yeah.
Or at least not their fault.
Well, especially at this point with the parents too. Like, to me, if I was that parent, I'd be like, someone just took my kid. Like, they were, you know what I mean? You wouldn't think the kids were flying that ship because they were all in that porthole, like kind of trying to get out. So like that dad would be like, no, like a ship took off with our kids in it and stole our kids, right?
Yeah, he seems like he's kind of in shock here, to be honest.
A little bit,
I think that's understandable. I guess the question is, as someone with a child yourself, how would you react?
I'd be losing my absolute mind. Yeah, I'd be losing my absolute mind, like those moms are. Like when they're standing and yelling and like they're all flipping out. Like I would be doing that too, being like, "What do you mean? Like you're not going to do anything?"
I have a lot of compassion for that because this idea of like just being at the whims of some uncaring bureaucracy just fills me with rage, and I'm working on it, but man, it makes me angry as hell. So I would.
It sounds like Fern's mom is being Farah. Like, no, like we're gonna talk, like we're gonna request a meeting with the was it the supervisor because we need to talk to them. Like this isn't good enough. She's like, she's taking that very like I'm important diplomatic privilege stance of like, no, like we're gonna talk to the manager. And
right. Well,
so like I appreciate her trying to like calm everyone down, but at the same time, it's like I would be losing my mind.
Well, it's like the guy in the guy who murdered that CEO, right?
Yeah.
He's like countrywide manhunt, right? But it's like if it some parent loses their kid, you think there's a countrywide manhunt going on? No,
not
right?
Normally.
These privileged people get to bring the full weight of the government or whatever to bear when they need it. So I mean, again, there's it's some bullshit, but if she's able to help make the rescue these kids, I suspect that they're not going to be able. They're going to be completely ineffective at doing anything on their side, and they're going to have to try to take it into their own hands if they can.
Yeah, we're probably going to see this like sinister bureaucracy kind of stuff about them being like, well, fuck it, like we need to get off this planet then and try to find our kids. Like I'm assuming there's going to be that double, like the kids are trying to get back while the parents are trying to like get off the planet, right? To figure things out, and we'll figure out this more sinister stuff that's going on. But yeah, it is so interesting that there's like this supervisor that's this overseeing things, and people aren't allowed to leave, and ships aren't allowed to enter. So it's very, very creepy.
Yeah, I mean, it's always like trust the system until the system isn't helpful for you anymore, right?
Yeah, especially when they're asking too about like, oh, aren't you going to contact the Republic for help?
Yeah, they're like, nope.
And they say something like along the lines of like, nope, like that it's not safe.
It's too risky to contact outside the barrier, to outside world. So
it's like, whoa, like okay.
What's crazy to me is that I think we're supposed to believe that if this planet has been isolated for like thousands of years, that this is the first time in all that time that anyone has left.
Has left.
Yeah, that seems That seems a bit much, but we'll see. We'll see. All right, we
Yeah.
got to continue here. Port Borgo. Cool shot of the brig that is located below the main platform. Again, I think the effects in the show are all pretty high quality.
Yeah.
We see an alien being shocked down the hall as the kids make their escape, and we see some weird tentacles sticking out of one of the cages.
Love it.
They have some weird aliens on Port Borgo, and I'm a fan. Jod uses the Force to create a distraction so KB can cross the hall. It seems like he just knocks over something to make a sound. That's or whatever. And the kids argue with Jod about the deal they made. He helps them escape in exchange for a ride on their ship out of there. Because they're all like, wait, if you could escape any time, why would you wait for us? Right?
Yeah.
And I think he has a good response, which is like, well, you guys have a ship. Why would I escape if I can't get anywhere?
Yeah.
Right?
That was my same question within that first couple episodes there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that makes perfect sense. And I do like his line here, which is, I waited, the Force provided. So he's not a Jedi, which he makes clear later in the episode. He's like, well, I didn't technically say that, which is a bit of a weasel situation because there is a specific line later in the episode where she's like, you're a Jedi, right? He's like, of course.
Yeah,
he says, of course, to that specific question. You said it. So
yeah, you said it. Yeah,
you said it. Nice try. But he obviously he does know how to use the Force. So Stream Crush did a little bit of the reverse engineering, similar to what we did, like from an age perspective. He could have been a Padawan during the Clone Wars.
Okay.
From an age perspective, so it seems the most likely scenario, right? Survives Order 66, went into hiding, became a pirate.
Yeah.
We'll see, but obviously had some sort of formal training, right? Speaks in the odd Jediism, right, which is my favorite term for colloquialisms that sound like they come from like a sensei or something, right? Or truisms, right? Okay, so Jod works to open a ray shield door as he introduces himself formally to the kids. I always like when they're like, well, we don't know you, and he's like, oh, what's your name? Okay, well, now we know each other. I've heard that. I swear that Justified has used that like 5 times over the last, several seasons that I've been watching. It's a classic. And it's a classic scoundrel move, right?
Yes,
because it's like a shortcut to trust. It's like, well, if we knew each other's names, then we can trust each other a bit more. Anyway, they're all excited for him, with the exception of Fern, who's very skeptical. She is the group skeptic, right? And Wim believes Jod uses the Force to sense people coming around the corner. She's like, he's like, it's so funny. What's his name? The blue elephant. And he's like, Neil. He's like, he used the Force, and he's like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And you know what? I would feel the same way if someone used the Force in front of me. I would feel the same way. I feel you, Wim.
Oh, absolutely.
And anyway, so I do, and this is like a fun like comedy beat here because he's like, okay, spots somebody, and then he goes off and then like beats up that guard around the corner, and all you hear is like a boom, boom, wah, like a classic like cartoon style. And then as he's doing that, they're like, everyone knows that the Jedi were, defenders of peace and justice in the galaxy. Everybody knows that. As he's beating up some random person, it's funny.
Yeah.
The juxtaposition there. And anyway, he gets himself a blaster, which is you're gonna need, right? And they're about to continue their escape, but then KB, quote unquote, senses something coming, and they hide as a like mini probe droid walls its way by. And then I love Fern's like quip here, being like, "Oh, I guess KB has the Force too."
Yeah.
But I guess the question is, how did she know? I assume that her like implants gave her the ability to like sense a droid coming, right?
Yeah, I would assume that as well.
And then again, another great line from Jod. Jod. I keep wanting to say Jord, but of course,
I keep wanting to say Jode too.
Oh, Job.
Yeah. Yeah, Job.
Yeah. Anyway, the Force flows through us all, which is, I know, something that Star Wars is really trying to hammer home these days.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Everyone can use the Force. or everyone has the potential to, right?
Yeah.
It binds the galaxy together. What can you say? As they make their way back to the main area of Borgo, we get to see some shots of Jawas. It's always good to see Jawas in a crowded room.
Well, I was like, Jawa's off of Tatooine. That's pretty cool. I feel like we don't often see them off
We saw
Tatooine, do
Jawas
we?
in that weird planet that that Mando has his ship
Okay.
taken apart. Remember? I don't remember what planet that was.
Yeah.
Where he meets the Ugnaught. You know,
Right. Right. Fair enough. Yeah. So I
in
guess they're always around.
yeah, they're galactic wide scrappers. You know.
Yeah. Love a Jawa.
Um, yeah, me too. That they just have a very cool look and like
Hmm.
clear understanding of who they are. um,
Eventually, for a Comic Con, I'm 100% gonna dress Wiley like a Jawa.
I feel like going as a Jawa to one of these would be great because no one can see you.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
like you can just be in disguise the whole time, basically, and that's
Yeah.
fun. Um, but again, you have to be prepared to take a lot of photos. But if it's just your kid, then
That's
people can't
true.
take photos. So
Yeah, but
or
it
they
doesn't really matter because he's like in a full costume. You can't see his face, so
that oh that's true. Yeah, I
yeah.
guess it's
It's like
still
it's just
weird.
it's extra funny when it's kids because they're the right height. So I just think
Oh
it's always
right,
funny
that's
when because
true.
I've seen it before and it's always like I'm like, oh, that's
And I
good.
feel
That's
like
funny.
they walk like Jawas do.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it was just like they
Yeah.
really got the like mannerisms down. They
Yeah.
don't even know it. I do
Yeah.
like the little bit of like wisdom we get from Jod here about how he's like, well, that way has lots of people. That way has no one at all. And the kids are like, well, let's go the way that has no people. And he's like, well, you say that, but it is easier to
Mhm.
hide in a crowd than it is to hide it in an empty corridor. And that is like a nice piece of like wisdom to like impart on the kids, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Although a little harder for kids to hide in a crowd, to be honest.
I feel like it's easier because they're so
You think
short.
so? But
Yeah,
like,
you
I feel
can't
like
see them once
kids,
they get like 2 or 3 people deep.
I guess, but I just like in general, it's like if you spot kids alone
Yeah, they
in
stick out more.
anywhere, it's like, where are your parents and what are you
Yeah.
doing here?
Yeah.
You know, especially if it's like if kids walked into like a nightclub, it'd be like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah,
You
it's
know what I
true.
mean? Like, so
Yeah.
I that would so what fair enough. But I guess there's enough short aliens that it's like maybe they're not
Yeah.
kids. You know, they're just
There's
short.
Jawas around.
Yeah. Maybe they should all be wearing the same disguise that Jod has, which is just a hood.
A hood. That's a
Yeah.
classic Star Wars disguise, though.
Yeah, it is.
Like Luke
100%.
just wears a hood when he goes to Jabba's palace. It's like Ahsoka just wears a hood when she's running away, when she like stops becoming a Jedi.
Obi-Wan when you first meet him
Yeah.
as Ben. Yeah,
Yeah,
everyone.
exactly.
Yeah. Obi-Wan. That's not a name I've heard in some time. All right,
Yeah.
so they make their way into the main area of Port Borgo. We get this really cool crane shot as the camera pulls up and we see the whole area. It looks like very practical. All the effects look great.
Hmm.
That's like movie quality in my opinion. Like I think I could see that shot appear in a film and be like, that is cool, regardless
Yeah,
of
yeah.
whether it's on TV or not. So as they ferry back to their ship, Fern wonders why it was so easy to escape. Classic line. That was too
Yeah,
easy,
that was too easy. Yeah.
right? Uh, and then there's some quips about how rickety and stinky their ship is. It
Yeah.
smells bad. And then I love
Yeah.
how there's like an aura of dirt hanging around their ship in space.
I thought
Uh,
that was just like debris coming off of
I
it.
guess
But
I
I
don't.
guess dirt, yeah.
It reminds me who's the stinky one in the dirty one in
Oh.
Peanuts. That's like
Yeah, I know
it's
what
not
you're talking.
Linus or whatever, but it's like the one that has like literally like the aura of dust around them all the time.
Isn't his
Um,
name like literally like mud puddle or like dirt puddle or something?
it's definitely not
can't
mud
remember.
puddle, but I think it's something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what it reminds me of. So yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it looks stinky even though it's in space.
Yeah.
So that's
I
fun.
guess because it did come out of the dirt too.
Yeah. So there's literal dirt coming off of it. So
Pig
back on the
pen. That's that kid's name.
yes, pig pen. So you had mud puddle. That's what there's mud puddles and pig pens probably. So yeah.
Yeah.
Back on the ship, and obviously Peanuts is on the mind because it's Christmas season and the
Yeah.
Charlie Brown Christmas album is easily the best Christmas album, and it's not even close in my opinion. So,
Mm.
Anyway, where was I? Okay, yeah, so they're back to the ship. Jod prepares the ship to depart and lets them in on his plan, which is to visit an old friend who is an expert on star maps and lost planets. Seems like a legit plan, to be honest. It's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
he is on board with finding At-Atten. For what reason? Probably selfish at this point, right? I mean, we know later in this episode, this next scene, basically, he talks to that guy and is like, I found the big score. You guys are going to want to, like, hang in there with me
Right.
for a bit, So obviously he has his own selfish reasons. And anyway, the kids want him to go back and get their droid, SM-33. They're already very attached, which I think is
Yes.
cute.
Yeah.
And then I love this exchange. I thought the Jedi never left a man behind. And then Jod's like, oh my God. His facial expression here and his response is so funny. He's like, he like hears it and then like processes them saying that and is like, thinks about it for a second. Is like, that's not a thing. That's not a Jedi thing or a thing the Jedi say.
Yeah.
And it's true. That's like the Marines. That's like a Marines.
Yeah, like no man
slogan.
left behind or
Yeah,
whatever. It's like,
yeah.
that is more of like a, not necessarily a pirate thing, but like a ship thing and like a captain thing.
Sure,
and
yeah,
whatever.
But it's definitely
yeah,
not a Jedi thing because they leave
No.
people behind all the time.
Yeah.
That's not a thing the Jedi say. It is funny to
Yeah.
me. The kids vowed to rescue the droid on their own. Okay, we'll do it ourselves then. And then with a little bit of reverse psychology from the kids, they get Jod to do it with this great line, which I mentioned earlier, which is, you can do anything. You're a Jedi, right? Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Of course. I'll do it.
Sam.
And then I love how as he has the kid stay on the ship, but he's worried that he's like, don't touch anything. I don't want you blasting off without me, right?
Yeah.
Even accidentally, right? He's like, please, like, don't leave me behind. I gotta, like, I'll do this thing, but just don't touch anything. And then it cuts to, like, we should blast off without him from Fern.
Yeah. We should leave him.
Yeah. And then, like, I just like the way that they cut this, like, this section of the episode, because it's kind of like cut for comedy, because the way that they go from this, like, oh yeah, don't leave him behind, we don't need a droid, yada yada yada, to cut to him back in Port Borgo, and they're like, Silvo's escaped. I searched the whole grounds. Like, just that cut alone is funny, right? And they plan on searching for him, finding him everywhere, but it's fine because his hood is able to keep him in disguise.
Of course.
He heads to the droid maintenance facility. And he turns on a few different droids looking for the right one. This is a fun little bit. We get a couple not astromechs, protocol droids.
Yeah.
CZ D2 9000. Weird looking face for a protocol droid, but not as weird as we've seen. We get another protocol droid who has this whole bit about wanting to save the prince, which I think is a funny,
and he
but also
walks
can't
off.
see. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's blind and wants to save the prince and just like walks into stuff. And then a fun B2 battle droid.
I
which
love
is,
that, yeah.
Or B1 battle droid. Not B2. The B2s are different. And then you get the classic voice, the Taylor voice. Did we win? Which is not the first time we've heard a battle droid turned on post Clone Wars and then say, did we win? I'm pretty sure we heard that in Rebels when they like have that, like, they find that planet with a bunch of like deactivated battle droids. Remember that? Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Did we win? No. I mean, technically you did. Depends on how you look at it.
Yeah, just how you look at it.
Yeah. And then I like how it just immediately falls apart too, which is fun. I don't think we've ever seen a battle droid look that good before, though. Really, really good looking effects there.
Yeah, it looked great.
He finds SM-33, but instead of walking out with him, he turns him back off and plans to like load him into a cart. And by the way, that cart looked really hard to push. I don't really know why. We don't know how the repulsor lift technology works necessarily, but why, if it floats, why would anything be hard to push?
I just kind of was under the impression that it's like shitty. It's just like not a very good one.
It just doesn't work well. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But it just feels like it has like its wheels are stuck, but it's like obviously it doesn't have wheels. But
yeah.
I could just imagine just being a super heavy cart that it's like obviously in real life it's like hard to push or whatever.
Yeah, you need to get momentum first, maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, so he's going to put him in the cart, and that's how he's going to bring him back. But as he's doing that, he's interrupted by another Ishitiv. They love being pirates, I guess, in this show. And this one knows him and is played by the amazing Alfred Molina, who you might know as Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, he's super. I love Alfred Molina. He's a great character actor. Anyway, so this character is called Benjar Pranik, and we get some great pirate lingo here. Big fan. He's like, "Captain, is that you? Come have some tea and tell me your troubles." You know, like just like the way that they're just really leaning into the piratiness of all of it. And then he's like, "Oh, you know, it's good to see you, Captain. Always a fire in your belly and a mad scheme in your heart."
I think that's a good compliment.
Yeah, and you're the best skip I ever had. But not so much that he's willing to snitch on him, though. We don't find out what happens to him. He says, like, well, we should call the guards, right? He makes his escape. I think we have to assume that Jod shot him.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think he did. I think he just took off and he was like he just knew he'd get out in time. I don't know.
Maybe. Because, like, Jod says, like, hey, listen, I promised this big score. Because he's like, hey, is it weird that Brutus would let you out? Brutus being, by the way, the werewolf. Isn't it weird that Brutus would let you out right before your trial? Nice of them to have a trial, by the way. The pirates. They have to have a code. Of
course,
all, right. But isn't it weird that he let you out? He's like, actually, I let myself out. But don't worry, I've got this big score. And he's like, well, does it have anything to do with those kids who, he says, quote, has pockets full of sparkling dataries? Which, by the way, I looked up that term. It just seems to be slang for credits.
Okay. That's what I was curious about, too, if it was like a different thing.
It has a real-world definition. It has something to do with the Roman Catholic Church, but it doesn't seem to, like, have any direct correlation to like pirate booty or anything like that. So, yeah. Anyway, Jod doesn't want him to snitch on him, but Benjar wants to have a chat with the guards. We don't know how that plays out, but he ends up being chased. So, we have to assume that Benjar does in fact call the guards. I guess. Back on the ship, the kids are in the process of debating whether Jod is actually a Jedi, which is I think something that it's a fun little like kid thing to debate, right? The big thing was like, how did he levitate the key if he's not a Jedi, right? And Fern is like, there's 1,000 ways you could levitate it without using the Force. And he's like, okay, well, name them then. And she's like, okay, repulsor lift, tractor beam, magnets, mirrors, string. He's like, string? He's like, yeah, really thin string, which is, I think, hilarious because I could see them using thin string as the like how you would do it. Like practically to shoot it.
Practically,
right?
yeah.
So I think that's fun. And then I get the great line from Wim, which is, "You're just jealous." And then she's like, "He just wants to steal our treasure." And then like I'm thinking at the same time as the kids are saying, "There is no treasure." And he's like,
you don't have any treasure.
Well, it's like, well, he doesn't know that. And I just think that all that interaction is between the performances from the kids, the writing, the way that they cut it, edit it together, I think is hilarious. And it's made even funnier when they're in the process of doing this, when we cut back to Jod, who's like dodging blaster fire as he makes his way back to the ship. It's so funny. So
the kid fighting is very like on point in this whole series so far.
100%.
Like the way kids bicker and like how their own little rules. It's very cute. I like it a lot.
Yeah. I am very impressed with the writing on this show so far.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, they get back to the ship. Jod gets back to the ship. He gets the droid back, and they try to leave, but they're stuck on a fuel line. And I know that they're like, it's a very well-made fuel line.
Yeah, he tries to snap
good.
it. Yeah. You'd think it'd be like fuel pumps here, where they just come off if you drive away from the pump.
Yeah, but no. I like to imagine that like they leave you tied on the line as not just for fuel, but also as like insurance, right?
Yeah, to make sure you pay and all that.
To make sure you pay, exactly.
Yeah.
Because pirates, you can't trust them to pay.
Of course not.
Yeah. So Jod's plan is to try to snap it, which doesn't work. Instead, he tries this move where he like wraps it around a bunch of ships and stuff. I think he's like trying to get more torque. And it ends up
Yeah,
he
like
ends up
more
just
weight.
yeah, he ends up smashing into a bunch of ships along the way. Again, all the ships look really, really great. Seeing the like starships move, we just don't get enough of it. I just need
Yeah.
more. So really cool. During this process, Brutus is alerted to what's happening. He says that it's Silvo. He's stuck on the lines. Um, Using the term lines is a very piratey thing too. So I'm a fan of that. Like that they were able to include that. There's not usually a lot of lines. There's not a lot of ropes typically.
Right. Yeah.
So anyways, and he also gets the great pirate line, arm the cannons on the double, which
Yeah, so good.
anytime we didn't get a lot of it in this episode, but we did in the very first episode, the prequel, or is it the
Right.
prologue, where I don't know, I think I've said this to you before. I've certainly mentioned it on the podcast a lot, which is one of my favorite things is when someone yells something and then people yell that same thing again but louder,
Ooh,
especially on
yeah.
like a ship where it's like raise the mizzen mast, like that kind of thing gets me going.
Yeah.
Love it. It gets me so excited. So he has them arm the cannon, and it's a cool looking cannon turret, very ominous looking. Anyway, they're still stuck, but now pulling the ships along with them, they continue to fail at their escape. The turret is like basically about to blow them up. Thinking on his feet, though, which is something that I think pirates have to be good at. Jod plans to use the hyperdrive to escape. KB rightly points out that it's dangerous to jump to hyperspace while still
Yeah.
attached to something. But in this case, it works out all right as they jump. Snaps the line right off, and they dodge the cannon fire at like the last second. And this, which they didn't have to show, but I loved anyway, caused the cable to snap back onto the port and like
Yeah, that was wild.
whip around and like cause a bunch of damage and like hit this guy. And he goes fly. That you do get the Wilhelm scream.
Yeah. Yeah,
that is fun.
Yeah.
Super dangerous if that ever happened in real life.
Yeah.
If a massive cable like that snapped at that speed. Anyway, Brutus puts a bounty on their head. He wants not just Silvo slash Captain Jack slash Jod. He wants the kids too.
Yeah, the
now now they are wanted men.
Mm-hmm.
Careful, he's wanted on 6 systems.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. Any thoughts on this first segment of the episode?
Yeah, I mean, I like this. I think it had lots of fun action and fun
Yes.
sequences in it. So I'd say this is kind of how do we? Yeah,
It's the highlight of the
we're going
episode for
through it.
me.
Yeah, I would say it's like definitely. I mean, the pirate stuff is just so good. It's so fun. I love this like pirate bay docking station.
Everything about it
It's
is
like,
fun and cool.
It's
I agree.
it's just very good. It's very well done.
Okay, so moving on the ship, which is again, of course, called the quick quiz for you, Rachel. What's the ship called?
It is called the Onyx something.
Yes, Cinder. The Onyx Cinder. Nice.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice. Nailed it. So,
Got it.
the kids wake up SM-33, who acknowledges the intruder on board, being Captain Jack. Another remark. He says again, and they highlighted this in the like previously on, which is that he says, "I don't remember no Atten," right?
Yeah, it's the same thing.
It's
though.
the exact same way he says it, which makes me think
Yeah.
that's like again his memory was erased, or that like
Yeah, it's been
sequence was
programmed or
programmed into
something.
him. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then I like how yes, we know.
Yeah.
Jod makes some food and scarfs it down. Obviously, super hungry. Offers some to the kids.
Yeah.
I like how he like puts the bowl down next to the SM-33. He's like, clean this up, and then SM-33 just knocks it off the thing.
Just throws it on the floor.
Yeah. Not interested. Not a nanny droid, obviously. Yeah.
No.
So Jod searches the ship. He finds a jacket on a dead guy. Very classic pirate stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like pillaging the dead, right?
Yeah. Looking for boots, matching them to your feet.
Yep. Gets some boots. He also gets a sick sword that was stuck through the skeleton on the wall. So he now has like a pirate scabbard, which is badass. He's interrupted. We get this really great scene with where he's like confronted by SM-33, who questions his authority. Who are you to be giving orders, right? Really cool standoff. I like how SM-33 like stands to his full height to kind of like show that he's not a pushover, right?
Right, yeah.
Um,
Like chest to chest almost, yeah.
yeah, and then like we get this like because he's a pirate robot, and he's like I'm a pirate, I will behave as a pirate as a
Mhm.
droid, right? It's
Yeah, I
great.
love it.
He kind of like sets the standard for pirate behavior, and he is also a pirate, right? Jod. So they
Mhm.
kind of have like a pirate to pirate exchange, which is cool, right? Because
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
like, what's the like pirate to pirate? Like, what's with these kids? Like, do you think they're really from Manhattan? And he's like, I
Mhm.
love how SM33, he's not giving away any secrets,
No.
right? He's no snitch. So he's like, I'll tell you what I know, and mark me words, as I won't be repeating them again. They're definitely from somewhere. I. And then I love how he comes back with a second eye.
That cracked me up.
I
Like, just
laughed out loud.
yeah, as did I. I'm sorry, he's my favorite character so far. Like, everybody else is great,
Yes.
but I love this pirate droid. Like, he just out
I
of the fucking
yes.
dark eye just, like, comes
I
back again,
yeah.
slithers away.
So funny. It's so funny. Again,
Ugh,
that is like pure the classic comedy to me. That's
yeah,
so good.
it's very good.
And I've also I must admit, and again I will not apologize for this, but I love doing pirate lingo. So I'm going to continue
It's so
quoting
fun,
it. Yeah. I need to include I more often in my like day-to-day speech.
right?
Right. Mark me words. It's so good. They're definitely from somewhere. Um anyway, Neil feeds Snowball, which is cute. The kids wonder if there's we get a little bit of like backstory or some like insight here. The kids wonder if there's actually treasure back home. They're like, do you think there actually is treasure? What's the deal with that, right? I would be wondering the same.
Yeah,
And then they
absolutely.
ask the smart question, which is maybe it has something to do with the great work, which I think they're onto something there.
Yeah,
That's certainly what it is. But they don't know what that is. They don't know what the great work is, right? It's like contribute to the great work, and then they start talking about what all their parents' jobs are, and they're like analysts. It's like, yeah, my parents are too. What do they analyze?
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
anyway, they start narrowing it down a bit, and they figure it has something to do with their money, which would tie back to like the lessons they were getting in school. Remember we talked about like the some of the currency lingo they were using
right, yeah,
in
yeah.
like an elementary school class about fungibility, you know?
Yes, yes.
Um anyway, I think they're onto something there. So, but they start looking at the money and then they hide it under their bowls, which is really funny. He's like, the food is really good.
Yeah.
I love how Jod is like not tuned into like how kids operate. So he's just like, you guys are fucking weird.
Yeah.
Um, So and he's like, and then it's like, anyway, long trip, time to get some sleep. And then we get another classic kid line. He's like, but I'm not even tired. Cut to
Yeah.
passed right out.
Yeah,
Just
just
like
so asleep.
never been more sleeping. Um, Kids are sleeping in hammocks, all very cute stuff. But KB's still up. This is where we get this kind of like first chance to hang out with KB, kind of like one on one.
Yeah.
She's always kind of like deferring to Fern, and it's kind of the same. We talked about this last week, kind of like the leader henchman sidekick,
Yeah, yeah.
roles that both KB and Neil have, right? And like, it even came to a head earlier in the episode. We didn't talk about it, but like when they're like, "Oh, I vote to stay," and then like we vote to leave, and I'm the captain, so I get the I get the
Yeah.
tiebreaker, right? But KB doesn't really want to vote with her, right? She's like, "Well, we are kids, and we can't kind of need his help, right?" She's smart to like consider that, and then I even like how later she's like talking to Kim, and she's like, "It's like what you're gonna go off with this guy?" And he's like, "Well, he's gotten us this far, right?" It's like fair enough, I respect that like line of thinking. Even if it's not correct, I think it's like fair, right?
Yeah,
He's
absolutely.
clearly not kidnapping them, right? So, or at least not yet.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we had this like brief moment with KB who's still awake. And he's just like, "You don't trust me." He's like, "Well, I don't think you're a Jedi. I ran the numbers. I calculated it, and it just seems very
Right.
unlikely."
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and he's like, "I calculated the odds," which is, of course, never tell me the odds reference. But
Mhm.
um, Jod's response, which is, "Not everything in the galaxy can be calculated. Sometimes you have to trust your gut," which
Right.
is both something a Jedi would say and a pyro would say. So
Yeah, yeah.
a
I feel
good
like she
crossover
is
there.
trusting her gut though, because I feel like her gut is telling her And the
Well, yeah,
calculations are
because again,
telling
if her
her.
calculations were, it's extremely unlikely that you're a Jedi. If she wasn't trusting her gut, I think she'd be more upfront about confronting that.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, we get to the observatory moon. Any other thoughts on this kind of like ship sequence?
No, I just again I really love the whole his interaction with SM-33. That was like my favorite, probably one of my favorite parts of the whole
Yeah,
episode.
me too. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I
And obviously getting a little bit more from KB is fun too. So
yes, 100%. I now feel like at this point we have kind of equal amounts of development for all the kids.
yeah, yeah. I feel like
So
their
yeah,
development is like quite well rounded now.
I
So
agreed. Yeah. Now we just need a little bit of that from Jude Law, and we're off and
yeah,
running. Okay, so we
exactly.
get to the observatory moon, which is we get this cool retro sci-fi music we talked about at the top. We get shots of this really cool moon,
Yeah.
backdropped with this like gas giant, this blue swirly marble looking thing, very cool.
Hmm.
And they land, and they do comment on the moon being cold, but they don't have any like breathers or like spacesuits or anything. And I know that I did see some people griping online about like it makes no sense. The show's stupid. Why are these kids just walking around this? It's like if you went to our moon and started walking around without a spacesuit, obviously wouldn't work, right?
No.
Um, but Star Wars has always been kind of uh wishy-washy on how this works because remember at when in the Bad Batch when
Yeah.
in the final season when they reunite with what's her name for the first time
Oh yeah,
after
yeah,
she
yeah,
escapes, they meet on
yeah,
that like rockety jaggedy moon, and
yeah,
none of them are wearing, they all just like hug each other and say hi. Like there's
yeah.
no, as far as I recall, there's no breathers or anything. They're just like
No.
breathing air. So they're very
Yeah.
inconsistent on how this works. So in this case, it's like they're just like, screw it, we're just gonna have them.
Yeah, but just
It's
because
just gonna be
something's a
fine.
moon doesn't mean it doesn't have an
There's no way
atmosphere.
that this tiny little moon has an atmosphere. There's no way.
Yeah.
It has no plant life. There's
Yeah,
no.
fair.
It's not big enough. You kind of need to be a certain size to have to like.
Do you?
Anyway,
I don't know how
yeah,
atmospheres work, but
yeah, yeah.
it
Because you
doesn't
have to
bug
have the
me.
You have to have the gravitational pull to like keep the shit on your planet, like to
Huh.
keep the atmosphere pulled against the surface. You also need
Okay.
things like a magnetic shield so that space winds don't rip your atmosphere away and stuff. Like this is what happened to Mars, by the way,
Ah,
because
okay.
their core stopped spinning. It froze because they're slightly too
Mm.
small. The planet is slightly too small, so its molten core, which creates the magnetic field, this is how real science works, by the way, stopped turning. It
Ah.
froze. It like solidified. So when that happened, the atmosphere was unprotected from radiation and solar winds. So
Interesting.
it ripped the atmosphere away from Mars, which is why everything died.
Huh.
So it had a very short-lived like warm period, quote unquote, where it had liquid water, and we know all that.
Yeah.
But it's not, the planet was too far from the sun, slightly, and slightly too small. Because
Hmm.
although Mars is our sister planet, is slightly smaller than Earth, and because of that, our size allows us to kind of create this perpetual chain reaction. It will eventually, one day in the distant, distant, distant future, our planet will die in the
Huh.
same way that Mars did. But it's not happening anytime soon, at least as far as we can tell.
Fun.
If the core ever stops spinning and we lose our uh, magnetic field, be very concerned. You're welcome to scream doomsday because the world will end if that
All
happens.
right. Good to
Okay,
know.
just a little,
A
picker
little
upper.
doomsday for your
Yeah.
Thursday morning,
Well, that's
everybody.
not doomsday scenario necessarily. It's just like, remember the movie Core?
No, never seen it.
So it's a sci-fi movie where the core stops spinning, and
Okay.
this is the same, and so they have to send a ship into the core to ignite a bunch of nukes to reignite it. It's cool
Ah.
as hell. It's super
All right.
cool. Yeah.
Cool. Well, it's a good thing our planet doesn't have a core because it's flat. So.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Touche. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah. So you're wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Depressing to think about that. All right, so this moon is cold. That's the only reference they get to it not having an atmosphere or whatever. Amazing shot of them walking in silhouette against the blue glass
I love
giant
that.
planet. Beautiful
Yeah,
shot.
it was really
Um,
cool.
the kids wonder why they park so far away, which feels like a very funny kids thing to ask.
Yeah, it's like something
Um,
you ask your parents.
yeah, like why would we park at the back of the
Like,
parking
why do we
lot?
have to walk? Yeah.
Right, to hide the ship. That they're like, oh, you want to hide the ship? Oh yeah, okay, piratey move, right? He gives the kids a heads up that he's worried his friend quote might stab them in the back, and he's like, stab us? But no, he just means to betray them. But again, pirates need to be concerned about betrayal. That's like their number one. That's like their favorite move.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
100%.
so we meet Kim, spelt KH apostrophe YMM. But I'm just gonna for the rest of my notes, I just typed it as KIM because
Yeah.
it's
I
easier to
don't
type that.
love this trend in Star Wars.
Just regular names but spelt weird.
Yeah, like I don't love it. It's kind of
Neil
like when
with two
people
E's.
like that one doesn't bug me as much, but like this one
Luke
with her name just
doesn't
being
bother
like
you.
Luke? No.
Luke is a
No.
normal. That's a regular ass name, Luke,
No, that's
and
fine.
it's spelt
I
normal too.
I just feel like you could come up with like kookier names. Like if you're gonna make the spelling kooky, like make the name
Is
sound
Jod
cooler.
Nanawood cool enough?
Yeah,
Jod Nanawu.
John.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. But like just
Okay.
Kim. That's just like to me. That's just like a wild name. I don't know.
It just feels like a wet noodle, like womp womp. I guess
Yeah.
it's like you're a talking space owl, but your name is Kim. It just feels like
Yeah.
I get it. I think like I get where they're coming from, which is like it's weird enough that she's a flying, space
Yeah.
owl. So we'll make her name a little bit more normal, and that's like a fun juxtaposition. But
Yeah. I just feel like it's too normal. Like I need it just to be a little
bit more
slightly
weird, I think. Maybe they've run out of good Star Wars names. Like the name generators, like run out of good ones.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, so we meet Kim, bird/owl creature who has also those like implants on her head. Maybe that's what lets her speak. Voiced by Alia Shawkat. Shawkat. This is if you've ever seen Arrested Development, this is Maybe from Arrested Development.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh,
and
that's
what's
cool.
funny about this is that she's doing her old lady voice again.
Amazing.
In that show, she pretends to be an old lady, which is so funny. And she puts on this old lady voice, and she's essentially doing the same voice here.
I didn't even pick that up. I'm gonna have to watch that again and tell
totally
Adam.
cracked me up.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
So before she confronts Jod, she watches him on a camera and is talking to some woman. This appears to be one of the Rangers of the New Republic. She's talking to the cops. She's snitching. So she's made a deal.
Yeah.
She's like, listen, I'll keep him around. I'll stall him so that you guys got time to get here to make the arrest. So she is surprised to see him with kids, and so she wants to help the kids, right? Fair enough. That's a good reaction. Hey, this known criminal that I know has kids with him. This is bad news.
Yeah, I think he probably took them. Like,
yeah. So I'm gonna call the cops because this is sketchy as hell, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, Jod knocks on the door, and we get to have this fun exchange where he talks to Kim through those like doorbell eyeball things, those classic doorbell eyeballs.
Things. Yeah.
And I like that there's 3 of them, which is fun. She calls him Crimson Jack. This is the first time we hear that. Do you think this is just his like pirate nickname, or like what do you think the deal is there?
I think this guy just has like tons of different aliases. Like he's kind of like a con man is what I'm getting from this. Is because it's like to her he's Crimson Jack, to the kids he's Jod Nanawood, and then to the other pirates he's I keep forgetting his starts with an S. Silvo, yeah, like he's got all these different names. So I'm like, okay, like I just think he's a bit of a con man, yeah.
Yeah, classic pirate behavior, right?
Yeah.
Having a nickname is not uncommon amongst the pirates, so that makes sense.
That's true.
I guess picking the ones that you like the most. I guess the question is, which are real? Is Jod Nanawood a real name? Like, we don't know.
That's what we don't know yet.
It does sound like a Jedi name, though. I will give them that. Maybe he went with that because it sounds more Jedi-y, right? Whereas, like, obviously Crimson Jack is not a very Jedi name.
No.
But does sound like a pirate captain name, right?
It does, yeah.
And, obviously Silvo is also kind of a cool captain name. So, I think you're right. I think he's just like, he's a well-known like pirate scoundrel, and with the being a pirate scoundrel comes many aliases, right?
Yes, yes.
Um, she also seems to think he looks really good. We get, again, similar to the how I mentioned before, Maz Kanata and her like weird obsession with Wookiees, or like
Right.
Chewie specifically, like that
Yeah.
weird, like she's like clearly like turned on, like horny for
Horny
Chewie.
for
It's
Wookiees, yeah.
weird, right? It's like, ooh, get your hands off my Wookiee, like that's
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
It's funny, but also really weird, and reminds me a little bit of like the weird sexual tension between the droid and Lando
And
in
Lando,
Solo,
yeah.
right? It's like, how
Yeah.
does that work? Oh, it works. Weird.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
fucking
it is
weird.
weird.
And anyway, she seems to have she seems to like Jack. That's the impression I
Yeah.
got. Am I reading it wrong? I've been
No,
out of the game.
I get it, but I think she's also kind of like flirting a little bit. Like it's,
Okay.
you know,
To try to
to
like get him in his good graces so that she can
yeah.
stall. Right. Right.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. Uh anyway, he offers something, quote, very special, so that he can like listen, I didn't come on empty-handed. I got something very special for you if you let me in. Okay, deal. When they enter, we meet Kim for real, because we only really saw her hands before. And she's in amongst piles of junk. She's a hoarder, basically, but she says that there are trinkets and tokens from 1,000 different worlds, and I love this reaction from one of the girls, which is,
Yeah.
there's 1,000 worlds? And her answer, which is, there's more than that.
Yeah.
And it reminds me, so Kim reminds me of Fee from the Bad Batch, Fee
Yeah, yeah.
Genoa, who is also kind of a pirate. But
Absolutely.
she's more of like a Laura Croft, Tomb Raider,
Yeah.
Indiana Jones type. It belongs in a
Mhm.
museum type of
Yes, yes.
pirate. But she's got like a Fee vibe to her, right? Kind of like the cool aunt style, like attitude, right?
Definitely.
Anyway, I've got maps of every star in the galaxy and hyperspace routes between them all, right? She's kind of like really pitching her whole deal. The kids tell her that they're from At-Atten, and this is when we get that astrogation line from the title. And as she doesn't have a map, because there are no maps to At-Atten, that's the twist. There is no maps because they were never created. They're designed to be hidden, right? But she
Mhm.
does have some other information. She pulls out a scroll. Anytime you see actual paper in Star Wars, it always means it's very old, right? Which, again, I
True.
think is another example of why we're talking about the actual Old Republic, like the old
Mhm.
Republic from several thousand years ago versus like the Republic from the Clone Wars era. And is there anything more piratey than a scroll?
A map of treasure planets, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that's really fun. She explains that At-Atten has been purposely hidden from the galaxy and talks about how, quote, the jewels of the Old Republic, she uses the Old Republic terminology here, planets of wonders kept hidden for their protection. We also find out that there were 9 of them, and they're
Yes.
depicted by these different like color variation things and like swirls and patterns. And that long ago they were all destroyed, which is confusing. Were the planets destroyed before, or
I would
the
assume.
artifacts, or how does that work exactly?
I would
It's
assume the
unclear.
planets, and I'm also curious if all of these planets were, because it's like planets of wonders,
Yeah.
but not necessarily good wonders. Like maybe some of them were like had things on them or things about them that could be
Hmm.
used in a more sinister
Well, we are talking
way.
about planets destroyed. Any planet
Yeah.
destroying technology is obviously like considered pretty taboo in Star Wars, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's possible, or that these are planets of wonder, like in like the Neverland style way, right? Like
Yeah.
these are
Yeah.
places that we protect because they're so special,
Right.
and that they were ruined, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
By these pirates or whoever trying to hunt them down because they thought they were, you know, turns out the treasure was the friends we made along the way, and not that there's any treasure here at all, right? And that would piss me off, and I
Right.
would destroy the planet, I guess, if I was an angry pirate who came away
Hmm.
empty-handed, right? So it's possible that we may never learn the fate of these 8 different other planets, but it is interesting to think about. The scroll is cool. It's got like these gold accents all over it. There's a bunch of like Arabish. Some people did some translations. It's it's not very clear what it's really talking about. It's kind of really everything that she's telling us here already. So long ago they were destroyed, except for one. Now Ad Atten is the only like remaining like legend, right? It's only remembered in children's stories, pirate shanties, and rumors only believed by fools. But Kim has always believed. So, okay. They want a map, but they think that the kids themselves can be the map, right? The goal, I think, is to use the knowledge the kids have of the planet to narrow, down where it could be. But like they can't see stars, so they can't match constellations or anything like that because they can't see the stars at night. And they only know like they're kids, so they only know like basic information. And it's like I love how she starts asking them questions, right? Like, what makes your planet special? And nothing. It's totally boring. It's so funny.
Yeah.
And then like any nearby planets, and then they're like, well, we learned about Coruscant and Alderaan. And I love this. Ooh, missed the war? They're like, what?
Yeah.
What war?
What war?
So
fascinating. Yeah, that's interesting.
Fascinating, right?
And I'm curious, is it just the kids who don't know about the war, or do like the adults
There's
not
no
know
way any
either?
of those people know. None of them know.
Like that's wild. Yeah, because they're like, okay, so they didn't even know about the entire war happening, which is pretty cool.
Well, I mean, it's like how, if our theories are correct that this is like taking place, like they were isolated thousands of years ago, then they wouldn't know about the war, right?
Yeah, but they know that the Republic exists.
Yeah, but they could be talking about the old Republic.
Ah, that's true. You're right. You're right.
So we'll see. But it is like, I mean, another hint. But I feel like this is one of those things where it's like, of course they wouldn't know about Alderaan. Like like that's not that surprising to me. So they mentioned the Great Work and the barrier. Neil gets a little bit of lines here. He said, "You see it at night. It's cloudy like a swirl." She thinks that they're nebular gases. That the planet is inside a nebula. Kim thinks that. So this narrows it down to only 10,000 worlds, right? And I love how Fern is like 10,000. This is never going to work, right?
Yeah.
But then KB is like, well, we've already eliminated 99.9% of the other options, which is a fun thing that someone with a computer on their head would say. And Kim spots Fern's badge on her backpack, which this feels a bit forced, but whatever. I've never seen Palmerish numerals used in Proto-Republic artifacts. Really, all that she's saying there is, I've never seen Roman numerals before on XYZ ancient pottery or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So that's really what they're saying. So anyway, she uses this information somehow. It's unclear. She like uses it on her computer to like calculate where she thinks the planet is, right? Again, how is not clear. She's like, oh, there's so many parameters. I like how she starts. She gets excited about like solving the mystery
so fast. Like, she's like, oh, yeah. Actually, it's gonna take a while.
Oh, yeah. Did I say an hour? I meant many hours.
Yeah,
days maybe. Yeah. And then Jod picks up on the fact that she's stalling. So, which she is. So Jod overhears the communications from the New Republic Rangers. She tries to explain to the kids that he's a scoundrel and that he can't be trusted, but he's like freaking out. He's like, we got to get out of here. He wants her to call off the X-Wings, but she's like, nah, bruh, you're a bad guy. Jod ends up shooting at Kim with his blaster. Not hitting her, though, so don't worry.
Yeah.
And I love how he's like, I told her she was a backstabber, which is a fun thing. A chip, like a little like card, shoots out of Kim's machine, which I guess have the coordinates on them. Jod takes. I've never seen this before. I've never seen like coordinates put on like a little chip before, so this is new to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, he takes them and shoots her computer so that she can't like recreate them and follow them or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they make a run for it. KB has this brief moment where he's like, "Did he tell you to use your gut? Because like really what you should be doing is use your head, get the truth. If you ever need help, you can call me anytime." Which is a nice like, hey, we're friends now. And now these kids are making connections so that when they become older and like grizzled pirates in the future, they'll have like their own
Yeah.
connections, right? But yeah, I do like the juxtaposition of the, trust your gut methodology of like a Jedi pirate versus like the analytical perspective of like treasure hunter,
Mhm.
So they make a break outside. We get a really cool shot of the X-wings doing like a flyover. They run back to their ship, but KB keeps asking for the truth. They won't let him board the ship until he gives them some truth. They try to like signal to the X-wings for help, but Jod is like, no, we gotta get out of here. And then so he's like, okay, here's what I'll give you, which is kind of like not that great of an answer. The truth is, I'm just like you. I'm lost. I'm alone. Okay, cool. That doesn't tell us really much more
No.
about your motivations or
Not at
whatever.
all.
So, and then he's like, yeah, but you are a Jedi, right? Well, I never technically said that. But again, yes, you did, bro. Yes, you did.
Yeah.
So he makes a deal. He's like, listen, I'll get you home, maybe with a little reward. Fair enough. If you, take me along or let me, use the ship, all that stuff. And she's like, no, not a partnership, like Fern. You work for us.
Yeah.
Which I feels like okay, sure. Of course he's going to agree to that deal.
Yeah, of course. All right,
Like,
child.
Yeah, okay, okay, baby, I work for you. And then like, because immediately like they're like, wait, why are you giving orders? You work for us. It's like,
Yeah.
come on. Like, why would you have him here if not to like know what to do, right? So anyway, they head back onto the ship. I also like how SM-33 is like, is the Jedi giving you problems, Captain?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
It's
like lights up
standing there
a
with a blowtorch.
blowtorch. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, it's funny. Anyway, so they try to take off. We get like a classic like Millennium Falcon style line, which is the launch support system's partially disassembled. Well, reassemble it. We need to take off, right? And then we get, a little bit insight into Jod. He says, you rely on a droid, they'll let you down every time. So maybe some like lingering pain from the Clone Wars. Maybe he's got some other,
Could be, yeah.
droid hatred. Maybe
not a droid.
Maybe like how Mando didn't like droids for a long time. Maybe he's like that, So we get this really cool action sequence. It's pretty short, but it's fun. They need to get to the other side of the moon before they can jump, right? So they have the escape these X-wings long enough, right? He puts Neil on the wheel.
Yeah.
So interesting move there. And I love how the kids are like, Neil gets to fly the ship.
Yeah.
And
they're all jealous.
Yeah, I know, but it's like, yeah. You get him, Neil. Go get him.
Yeah, let him have his glory.
I love how, and then like he's like, how do I do this? He's just like, just evade. That's the tip. That's the tip he gives him. That's good.
Yeah, just like move them back and forth, fly around. Yeah.
Yeah, fly casual.
Yeah.
So he puts Neil on the wheel, and then he puts Wim and Fern into turret pods, which pretty wild.
The kids shoot.
He's letting the kids shoot. I think he probably had a sense that like he knew that the X-wings couldn't really fight back.
Yeah, and he probably knew that the kids weren't gonna land any shots. Like
they did. They got one.
They clipped one a little bit, but I think he was like, they probably won't kill anyone.
Yeah, probably not.
But maybe they will, and he probably didn't care.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, if they kill somebody, it's not the end of the world, but most likely they won't. He's like willing to take that risk, right?
Yeah.
So really fun to see, them shooting stuff. It's like they're on Disney World. It's like, that's fucking sweet, right?
Yeah.
Wim is so stoked to like his face.
Pumped.
Oh my God. He's like, you're going to put me I get to shoot. Oh my God. Yeah. Right. And even Fern is having a good time because like, she's like, look, I got one. He's like, that was my shot. And it's like, was it though? So that's funny. Anyway, the X-Wings are on their tail. They put out some fire. They lightly graze one of them. And so Jod takes control of the ship again. He waits for word from KB on when they can make the jump. He kicks up some dust to create like a smoke screen, which is really cool. And that gives them just enough time. We get a nice, beautiful visual of them like shooting upwards off the moon so that they could jump away. And they do. They escape. Thrilling escape. The X-Wings then go land back on the moon to go have a quick chat with Kim. She's surprised that they let the kids escape, but the X-Wing pilots clarify that they didn't want to take any chances with the kids aboard. That makes sense. And I appreciate the explanation. That's another thing that I feel like if they didn't say that, someone would be like, oh, you can't tell me that these X-Wings couldn't shoot down our old rickety pirate ship? Blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? So they just get to explain it right in the episode, which is good.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like she told them that he had kids with him, so.
Yeah. So anyway, they ask her where they were headed. She's like, you wouldn't believe me if I told you.
Yeah.
Which is good and probably true. And then we cut to credits on like this weird shot of her face.
Yeah.
So
that's a good thing too. That's why I was like credits. I was like, oh, okay. Like I thought we were gonna get like a little bit more about, a little bit back on the plane, but
nope.
But all right.
Nope.
That's fine.
This show has now ended on jumping to hyperspace like 3 times.
Yeah, right.
So, it's fun. Okay, so that's it. Any final thoughts? I know you have to run, so.
Yeah, shortly here, but no, I mean, like overall, like we did get some plot moving forward, a little bit more facts, kind of about the mystery behind Atten, which is good. So I'm liking that we're at least moving storyline and that kind of thing apart and developing some characters a little bit more. But I did Google just to see if there was any meaning behind Aten, and there is. So it is a Sanskrit word meaning the sun or radiant, and it symbolizes brightness and energy. So I don't know. I don't know if that has anything
brightness
to do.
and energy. I mean, maybe like I don't know. Maybe they've got some sort of like crazy power source, or
you never know. But
okay, that's cool though. That's some solid work.
Yeah,
on the
you're
research
welcome.
side. Yeah, that's good.
I was just curious because Star Wars likes to do that. They like to pull words and whatnot. Naming things
100%.
from other bits of medium. So it's like that's kind of cool. But yeah,
there's always more to it.
Right? Exactly. So I'm just so curious about this whole mystery behind their home world. So obviously we're gonna get more of it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping for just a little bit more next week. But
yeah, I think now that they're like back out on the mission.
Yeah,
they're probably going to be chased by pirates. Who knows all sorts of things that could happen. I think we're now kind of into the meat of it.
Yeah, I think so.
Episode 4 of The Acolyte was pretty cool, so maybe we'll get something similar here. Where
we've kind of
really
cleared up
into it.
Yeah, like the escape and the getaway and the whatever kind of.
Yeah, we've set the stage. So now it's time for things to really like kick into high gear. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, it's fun. Get a bit of a pirate chase, maybe. Which
I
cool.
like this show so far. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, me too. I'm finding it like very fun, very refreshing. It's got a very cool tone to it, and yeah, I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah, so next week I think our recording schedule should return to normal. So we'll likely be recording Wednesday evening. That will be the 18th. Around what time we usually record? 7-ish. 6, 7-ish.
Yeah, like 6:30. Yeah, 7:30 usually is our kind of.
Yeah, Central Time. So stay tuned for that, YouTube and Twitch for those. And then we'll drop the podcast on Thursday, the 19th. For this episode, I'll be doing the podcast, dropping it same day from this live recording. So if you're listening to this, it means it's already come out.
Yeah, we got someone commenting on Twitch here, which is fun. But they say, this is a huge shock for me. I finally get to listen to 2 normal Americans. I need to stop watching Fox News. May the Force keep you too strong. Hey there, Polar Knights.
Yeah.
Plot twist. We're Canadian.
Yeah. Which is why it's so freaking cold. It's so cold today.
But welcome. Welcome to the chat. Come back next time.
Yeah, subscribe, please.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll need to do more daytime shows to really bring in a new audience. And may the Force be with you also, Polar Knights. And speaking of Polar Knights, it is freezing cold, which is I am going to go. There's the only thing you can do on a day this cold is nap. So I am going to go take a nap, and then I'm going to edit the show, post the show, and then look for work, I guess.
We'll see you all next week.
I think in that specific order. Yeah, and then again, we'll be back next week. Until then, as Polar Knights said, may the Force be with you.